record, something that was totally unnecessary in the first place, obviously, but we're hoping this will be the week when the Democrats come to their senses and decide to reopen the government. Of course, if you look at why we are here in the first place, it's hard to explain. I still don't know exactly what it is they want. We have accommodated a lot of their questions and concerns. They want to have a discussion about health care. We offered that up a long time ago. And, you know, clearly I've talked repeatedly about having a normal appropriations process where we put bills on the floor, open it up to the amendment process, and allow people to have their voices heard in how we fund the government the old-fashioned way. So I'm still at a loss as to what it is exactly they're trying to get out of this. The one thing I do know is as the days roll by, the consequences and pain of this shutdown grow more severe for the American people. And especially if you are a government employee or the family of a government employee who's no longer getting paid, there are more and more stories of people out there who are trying to live paycheck to paycheck. And now you've got the food assistance going away, the SNAP program. You have Head Start and young kids who need to be able to have access to education. That's increasingly at risk. You'll see more and more probably next week with Veterans Day rolling around, Democrats out there posting nice videos and photos with veterans, which most of us probably should and will do. But the better thing they could do is actually support our veterans by opening up the government and allowing these regional offices to get open today, open again, and allow the GI Bill hotline to start functioning and operating again. There are so many ways in which Americans are impacted by this, and certainly our veterans and our troops come to mind immediately. So I'm hopeful again that this is the week in which the Democrats will conclude that this is not a good thing, and while they may believe politically that it's in their best interest, and obviously we've seen lots of statements that suggest that, it's certainly not in the best interest of the American people. The American people are those who are caught up in the political games being played here in the Senate by the Senate Democrats. All it takes is 5 of them. We have a bill sitting at the desk, which we voted on repeatedly. It came over from the House of Representatives, meaning that as soon as the Senate passes it, it goes directly to the President. He will sign it into law. The government will reopen. And all these adverse consequences that are being experienced by people across this country will go away. That's all it takes. 5 more Democrats, 5 Democrat senators with the courage to take on their political base and their leaders and to do what's in the best interest of the American people.
Mr. Leader, walk us through the play call here, the potential play call here, the idea that there might be some sort of an agreement to move the CR to a later date in January, vote Thursday night, Friday night, something like that. And is there a disagreement between the date between the Senate and the House?
Well, I think obviously since we are now into November and the CR, we've lost 5 weeks, so the November 21 deadline no longer makes a lot of sense. So clearly it would have to be extended, and there is a conversation around what that next deadline would be. But the hope and expectation would be that we could get appropriations bills on the floor, get them considered and passed, so that we can fund the government through the normal appropriations process. Nobody wants a year-long continuing resolution, least of all the Defense Department, and the best way to avoid that is to move appropriations bills. The date is still something that's being, I would say, being discussed.
And is that because there's an issue in the Senate, or there's disagreement between the Republican leadership in the Senate and the Republican leadership in the House?
It's a function of it's Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate. I mean, obviously, you've got to have the votes to execute on whatever it is we put on the floor. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we do that in a way that enables us to have success. And if we have to change the date, which we will, here in the Senate to send something back to the House, we obviously want something that will pass the House and will be signed into law by the President.
Leader, given all the suffering in the country right now, and given the fact that you've held these press conferences every week and the speaker has held them daily, why is it, do you think, that public opinion is not carrying the day on this issue?
You know, I don't know, and honestly, I've said this before, I I really try to avoid making this an issue out of what the polls say or who's winning or losing, because nobody wins. Shutdowns are stupid. I've been here long enough to have been through a few of them. Nobody wins. And so, you know, I think obviously the American people ought to hold us all accountable. But clearly, in this case, it is the Democrats, and they are actually coming out and owning it in their public statements, suggesting that we want to keep the shutdown going, or it gets better every day for us, or we need this for leverage. Those are all statements being made by Democrat senators and House members. And I think that's the prism through which they're viewing this. And I think that's just the wrong way to look at this. The right way to look at this is, as you pointed out, the impact that it's having on the American people and the pain that it's inflicting on literally millions of Americans. That's what I think this is about. And honestly, nobody wins. Let's just, they need to vote. Let's open up the government and get back to work. One last question.
Tucker Carlson had two friendly interviews with Nick Fuentes about Hitler, Stalin apologist. This is a pattern of behavior for Carlson, who's expressed pretty sympathetic views toward controversial figures like Vladimir Putin, for example. Do you think that Tucker Carlson's views and that his voice belong in the government?
Well, there are lots of voices obviously out there, and but I don't think there ought to be any. There just should be no room at all whatsoever for anti-Semitism or other forms of discrimination, and that's certainly not what our party is about. Our party is a party that welcomes all comers, and we want to stand up for and on behalf of the American people who work hard every day to make a living, and just want a government that works for them, hopefully at the lowest possible cost, and in a way that enables them to go about their lives and provide for them and their families. Thanks.